Today is the day of National Truth and Reconciliation Day in Canada. Our country has a terrible history of white colonizers coming in and taking over the land that belonged to the Indigenous people. Now, when I was growing up, we didn't learn about residential schools in teachings because it wasn't part of our Canadian history. But it is now. And here we have Danielle Smith posting about honoring our survivors, our families, and their communities. Here she decided a little cultural appropriation was best as she wore a ribbon skirt. May I remind you that this is the side that she's on? She likes to post how she's working with the people in Treaty 8 and, help them build a stronger Alberta for everyone. And then she makes a post about Nazism and communism, families being torn apart and communities destroyed, millions who never saw freedom again. Before we get any further, just a mental note, the last residential school closed in 1996. The sitcom Friends premiered in 1994. This wasn't ancient history. This happened in my lifetime. People like this guy and Danielle Smith meeting with these guys seems a bit hypocritical to me, no? Especially considering this guy is in charge of the IDU. What's AIMCO, you ask? Well, it's one of Canada's largest and most diversified institutional investment managers, and it's responsible for the investments of pension, endowment, and government funds in Alberta. It also manages funds for Alberta teachers and management employees. Why would anyone want Stephen Harper, the leader of the IDU, to be responsible for Alberta's investments? Oh, I don't know, maybe because they're working with this guy to put through an agenda? I'm so sick and tired of hearing people say, well, where are the bodies? Their feeble attempt for denying residential schools is that there were no bodies recovered. You can debate me all you want on science, but my question to you is this. Where's all the children? Graves, no graves, marked, unmarked. The children are still missing. There are families who still have children who are missing. Uncles, aunts, cousins, relatives, fathers, mothers, missing. Never came home from residential school. Left for school one day, never came home. These people went missing. I don't need a machine with ground-penetrating radar to tell me that children did not come home. I personally know people who have family members who never came home. If you don't think they're buried somewhere, then where are they? You seem to have a whole lot of energy denying residential schools, but no energy looking for the missing children. Canada's done a lot of horrible things in our past, and some of us are trying to do our best to make up for that. And as much as we can't make up for what happened, we can at least move forward and educate people so that that never happens again. We won't have truth and reconciliation unless people like this are shut down. A Conservative MP named Aaron Gunn literally said there was no genocide, stop lying to people, and read a book. And Pierre Poilievre shook his hand. Canada needs to do better. Supporting men like Pierre Poilievre and John A. Macdonald and Aaron Gunn. If any of you rally around these people, you have some significant soul searching to do. The Indigenous people of Canada were here first. Their land was cruelly taken from them. They were shoved into the far corners of the country to be forgotten. And then their children were stolen away from them so that they could educate the Indian out of them. They taught the white people that the native people were savages and that they would be much better off raised in a white family. Do you know these practices are still continuing today? There have been many cases where young Indigenous mothers have had their children taken away from them based on drug problems. Or because they were young and unwed. Oh, those children would be much better off in a white home. They were literally banned from speaking their native language. They were punished for growing their hair. And they were punished because they didn't follow the teachings of Jesus. Amazing. I've never had an Indigenous person knock on my door and start telling me about their belief systems. The Indigenous people of Canada are the canary in the coal mine. If our country starts to fall apart, they're the first ones to stand up and let us know. And the amount of bigotry and racism that I am seeing right now against Indigenous peoples needs to stop. So on this day of truth and reconciliation, I make it my mission to learn. I think everyone should go and read the Truth and Reconciliation Act. It'll actually give you an idea of exactly why it was needed. Indigenous peoples do not get handouts from the government. There were promises made to the Indigenous people of Canada. Those promises were broken. The Truth and Reconciliation Act was designed to identify the problems and help to fix them. Now, are we perfect? No. Justin Trudeau made an attempt to get clean water to as many reserves as possible. We still have a long way to go, though. So what can you do? Do some research. Go meet with an elder and talk to them about their life experiences. Go talk to someone who's lost a family member to a residential school. Better yet, go talk to someone who was in a residential school. Go talk to a child who was adopted by a white family and let them tell you their story. Or go find a young Indigenous woman who just had her child taken from her. Learn about the lived experiences of these people. Real life experiences. Not some Facebook meme that Pierre Poilievre and his team have conjured up. Not some blatant denialism. Not some fake research paper from the Fraser Institute. Get off your ass and go actually talk to someone. And then come back here and tell me we don't have work to do. To all of the Indigenous people of Canada, I'm sorry. I'm sorry our leaders were never held to account for the atrocities that happened. I'm sorry that the people responsible still got away with it. I'm sorry that after all these years, no one has stood up to take responsibility. I'm sorry for all the years that you missed out on being with your loved ones. And I'm sorry you suffered. Moving forward, we all need to educate ourselves on what really happened. And then take steps to make sure it never happens again. Because this rhetoric needs to stop. And just because the last residential school closed in 1996 doesn't mean all the children were free.